Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng tất cả các bạn đã đến với chương trình Lịch sử hào hùng, một chương trình được đặc biệt tạo ra bởi IELTS giúp cho việc luyện tập nghe tiếng Anh trở nên thú vị hơn qua những chủ đề lịch sử. Để luyện tập tốt hơn, hãy cùng quét mã bài tập ở góc phải màn hình hoặc click vào phần mô tả để luyện tập tốt nhất nhé. Ok, bắt đầu thôi!
In his inaugural address, President Obama mentions the name THAM as a symbol of the blood sacrifice of the American military in the Vietnam War. This was the battle that occupied 50% of the airtime of major news outlets worldwide. And even President Lyndon Johnson had a model of THAM built in the White House to monitor the battle closely. This alone is enough to make us understand the immense importance and significance of the Battle of THAM in 1968 for both Vietnam and the United States. However, to fully comprehend why the shocking Battle of THAM in 1968 occurred, we need to revisit the reasons why the American military was present in South Vietnam in the first place. After the earth-shaking victory of General Võ Nguyên Giáp at Điện Biên Phủ, we sat at the negotiating table at the Geneva Conference to sign an agreement that temporarily divided the country into two regions along the 17th parallel. It was clearly affirmed that this division was not a political or territorial boundary, but a temporary separation, with a free general election to reunify the country to be held in July 1956. Another particular point of the Geneva Agreement was the provisions allowing free movement of people between the two regions for 300 days. What does this imply? And why was it included in the agreement? Firstly, it aimed to demonstrate to the world that the majority of North Vietnamese people wanted to escape and leave the regimes. More profoundly, this movement of people was intended to provide the South with a source of skilled collaborators. The question arises, why did so many North Vietnamese migrate to the South? It is estimated that out of a total of 1.3 million migrants, 1 million moved from North to South, while only 300,000 moved from South to North. This is simply because most of the 1 million people moving from the North to the South were Catholics, influenced by the priests who claimed that a Catholic prime minister in the South was waiting for them and would provide them with fertile lands for their livelihoods. This was not a war fought by guns and bullets, but it was far more dangerous, as it was a psychological war. The Americans spread information that the North was preparing to launch crackdowns on Catholics and that the Virgin Mary has left the North. Of course, no general election took place. Our leader, Ho Chi Minh, foresaw this outcome immediately after the Điện Biên Phủ victory. Since the United States funded 80% of France's war effort, it was clear that whoever funded the war would take control. Third, despite the victory at Điện Biên Phủ, we had to prepare for the potential conflicts with the United States as well. President Ho Chi Minh's predictions was entirely accurate. The United States established the puppet regimes of Ngô Đình Diệm. A blatantly manipulated election was held, in which Diệm received 98.2% of the votes, a result so suspicious that even President Eisenhower had previously stated that no one could receive more than 90% of the votes in a truly free election. The fraudulent nature of the election was exposed when Diệm received over 800,000 votes in Saigon, despite there being only 400,000 registered voters. This rigged election is precisely why there was no general election to reunify North and South Vietnam in 1956. The Ngô Đình Diệm regimes were certain that victory would belong to the Democratic Republic of Vietnam under President Ho Chi Minh's leadership. At that time, President Ho Chi Minh and the Democratic Republic of Vietnam has enormous prestige, having just defeated the French at Điện Biên Phủ. Even American intelligence included that at least 80% of the population would vote for President Ho Chi Minh if an election were held. It didn't take the CIA or the American president to make this clear. Public opinion worldwide and within the country knew that if an election were held, President Ho Chi Minh would win. The election results were known in advance. The essence of the United States breaking the Geneva Agreement was rooted in their fear of a domino effect in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. If Vietnam were to unify, it would inspire communist and liberation movements worldwide. Therefore, the United States wanted to create a barrier to the spread of communism, represented by the 17th parallel. This belief in the domino theory led 5 successive American presidents to defeat in Vietnam. The brilliant mind of America devised various strategies, from special warfare to comprehensive war, to the Vietnamization of the war, but all ultimately failed.
Chương trình xin được phép tạm dừng tại đây. Đừng quên ấn like và subscribe nhé!